Welcome back to the Gentleman's Garage. We're back at Lamborghini Houston, Indigo, part of Indigo Auto Group. And we're back here a little sooner than I expected. Obviously, if you guys saw the last video, we came here to do the demo, or to do a on-road review in the demo of the Lamborghini Revuelto. They ended up surprising me having my actual car already delivered. We ended up taking at least the very first one in Texas, probably the very first one, customer delivery Revuelto in the United States. Big surprise, I did not expect this to happen. We're actually here for a very, very special car. This will officially be my most limited production car that I've ever owned. We're talking about the Lamborghini STO 60th anniversary. There's only 60 of these cars made worldwide. 30 of them were in blue. Of the 60 for the world, there's only 9 of these cars in the United States. This is the end of the road, not only for the Huracan, but also for the Lamborghini V10 engine, which blows my mind. I never thought we would see a day where, you know, the V12s are continuing to live on, as you see in the Revuelto, and even in some of the cars that Ferrari's bringing out with the Dodici Cilindri and whatnot. I did not ever imagine that the V12s would outlive the V10. But as we know, the Huracan replacement's gonna have a V8. I think it's supposed to rev to like 10,000 RPMs. I'm sure it's gonna be epic, sure it's gonna be cool. The Huracan's always been one of my favorite driving Lamborghinis of all of them. They're very nimble. The V10 sounds amazing. I think the V10, depending on the exhaust, sounds better than many of the V12s even. This car sounds incredible. It handles amazing. It does everything really, really well. I've always loved the Huracans. We had one of the very first coupes, then we got the Spider, then we had the Performante Spider. They came out with the STOs. I didn't jump on an STO right away. We were just on different cars on our collecting journey at the time. And then when I found out that not only were they into the Huracan, which we expected, but that the replacement would not have a V10. This was the end of the line of the V10. It made me start reconsidering the STOs. And then we ended up actually visiting one of Indigo Auto Group's other Lamborghini dealerships out in Palm Springs, California. My wife and I just happened to be out there vacationing and having a good time. Stopped in to say hello to our friends there at Indigo, and they had this sitting there. And I got to learn more about this car, and it is stunning. But it's unbelievable to think only 9 in the United States, incredibly limited production car. I'm sure it's gonna do very, very well from a collector standpoint. I actually know another gentleman that has one exact same spec, and he's keeping his under lock and key because we know that this car is going to appreciate tremendously in value. Unfortunately, that's not how I'm gonna handle this car. As soon as I pull out of here, we're gonna put the GoPros inside the camera. I'm gonna bring you guys for my first real world road review in the one of 60 STOs, and I'm gonna drive the car the way it was built to be driven. That's just me, that's the way I enjoy them. I may lose a little bit on the long-term appreciation side, but I think I'll get 10 times more enjoyment out of it, and that's just the way I enjoy the car. 75% of this car is carbon fiber, so it's incredibly light, and the way they did it in this matte blue is gorgeous. And if you get a really close look, and I hope it shows up on camera here, all the carbon fiber is in blue. It is absolutely stunning. Lamborghini really threw everything at it to make this car as special as it should be, especially given this a swan song to that glorious and amazing V10. Everything on this car is absolutely extreme. If you come around, as you can see here, we've got the 1 of 60 badge that Lamborghini put, letting you know there's only 60 of these. And think about how rare that is. My SVJ Roadster, there's what, 800 of those. Then my 2016 SV Roadster that I had, that was 1 of 500. This is 1 of 60. Unbelievable that they chose to make this such a limited production car. But I tell you, the spec again is just killer. The way they've got the matte light and dark blue playing off each other, again with this massive shark fin and hood scoop, all done in this beautiful blue carbon fiber. Car is just unbelievable to look at. And I gotta tell you, it comes with an unbelievable price tag too. I mean, this car at the end of the day, $584,343. Yikes, that is unbelievably expensive. I mean, that's well into Aventador money for sure. Now, I get it, it's a V10, this car is magnificent, it's super cool, it's gonna have a very special place in history, but man, that's a lot of money. Coming around the rear end is just fantastic. And I drove this car very briefly in Palm Springs, California, when we bought the car last week and had it shipped here to Houston. The one thing I knew this car had to have was an Akrapovic exhaust. The guys that took the liberty to get it already installed for us. This matte paint, although it's gorgeous, if you have any kind of car in matte paint or you know anything about this, you got to get it PPF. One little rock chip or scuff or scratch or whatever, and they've got to repaint the entire panel. So to prevent that from happening, before I ever take delivery of any car with matte paint, I have the entire car front to back covered in PPF. And you got to get the guys that know how to do it and do it right, so that when you look at this, it doesn't change the look or the tint or of the color at all. And the guys here have done a fantastic job doing that. I think I'm so proud and excited to own it, but I'm most excited to bring you guys along. Let's get it out on the road, find out what it's like to drive. I had the Huracan Coupe when it first came out, then I had the Spider, and then I had the Performante Spider. Performante Spider was really one hell of a car, no question about that. That car was amazing, sounded amazing, handled amazing, it had the rawness that you wanted, the handling that you wanted. I love convertibles. Of course, it had the drop top, and quite honestly, it was really strange about that car. The only reason why I ever sold the Performante Spider is because that roof line in the Spiders came down, it raked a little bit lower, so my head would rub on the roof of the car as I'm going down the road. So if I had the top on, that was super annoying. You get wherever you're going, your hair's all messed up, it's just been rubbing on top of the roof. And then if you took the top off, the roof line was so low that I'm catching pebbles and stones in the top of my forehead. Really annoyed the hell out of me, which I hated that, because other than that roof line, I loved everything else about that car. Really, really loved that car. The STO really caught my eye because it's supposed to kind of be the ultimate driver's edition of the Huracan. And really been kicking around buying an STO, and I'd get hot on one, and then there was other cars that would come in that would take precedent over it and whatnot. And this one just kind of came to be. I'm really, really glad it did. I did test drive it briefly when I bought it at the Indigo store in California, out in Palm Springs, Palm Desert to be specific. And I knew right away the car needed an exhaust. One of the biggest things I missed of the Performante was that glorious V10. I had the aquapobic exhaust on that car. I think that's what it needed. That exhaust pairs perfectly with that car and that engine. Car sound amazing all the way through the rev range. The first thing I'm noticing in this car, it's still pretty quiet. At idle, it's got a really good rumble to it. But what's interesting, as soon as you put it in gear, as soon as I go to drive off, it gets quiet. There's definitely some sort of programming going on with the baffles, because at 4,600 RPM, not 45, trust me, I've tested it several times. At 4,600 RPMs, the baffles finally open up and you get a great exhaust note. So we'll get it 45 and 46. And it sounds fantastic here. Problem with that is I gotta stay so damn high in the rev range to get the exhaust note that I wanted by getting back into a V10 Huracan. So that's really driving me nuts at this point. And I'm just gonna have to figure out, say as soon as I drop below 4,500 or 4,600 RPM, it's quiet again. I'm hoping that I can either have the baffles locked open manually, like we used to do in some of the 458s, and even the 812 Superfast. You pull the vacuum tubes, leaves the baffles open, and you get a great exhaust note all the way throughout, even sitting at idle and low RPM driving. I know I'm really going off about this, but this is a big thing. The difference once those baffles open is huge. And now you've got something, you know, and now the tone matches the driving excitement of this car. It's the end of the line of the Huracan, but Lamborghini pulled it all out with this car. The Huracan was already a fantastic car. I've loved it since the car first launched, but the STO definitely dials it up. I would liken this, the difference between, say, a Porsche GT3, already amazing car, getting dialed up in the GT3 RS, taking a phenomenal car and making it even greater, sometimes even beyond what we thought was possible. How do you take a great car, GT3 is a fantastic car, and make it even better? Well, Porsche's pretty damn good at doing that in the 3RS. Every iteration of 3RS has ended up exceeding my expectations because I always had the same mindset. Every time they come out with a new GT3, how do you make this car even better? Well, Porsche does it. And I would say that that's exactly what Lamborghini has done here with the STO. The Huracan was already a fantastic handling and driving car. A very exciting car to drive as well. The STO is exactly what they've done here. They've dialed it up to 3 RS status over at GT3. I gotta get this thing on track. There's just no two ways about it. Either the Circuit of the Americas there in Austin, or even out at MSR, Motorsport Ranch down in Angleton. It's about an hour, 10, hour, 15 minutes away, but close enough for me to get something out there and enjoy the track. And this car begs to be put on the track. Absolutely, for sure. That's what this car is all about. You know, it's interesting with the handling that this car has. I'm not gonna say it's a smooth ride by any means, but I'll tell you, it's not as stiff and rough and uncomfortable as I thought it would be. I really thought, I understood the idea behind what Lamborghini was intending to do with the STO, and I thought, God, it's gonna be super rough, it's gonna be uncomfortable, and I'm not gonna enjoy driving it on everyday roads and whatnot. Absolutely not. Yeah, it's stiff. I'm not saying it's not, but it's not to the point where it's uncomfortable or unbearable or anything like that. I think it's right on the line, having the stiffness that you need to get that handling and performance out of the suspension, but still something you can drive on the roads for the vast majority of the time and really have no problems with. It's got a nice little open straight, ESC, first gear, thrust mode, let's go! Actually, a little more wheel spin than I expected. Wow, but I mean, it just jumps and launches. At the end of the day, it's rear wheel drive. That was a great, really great full send thrust mode. No matter how many cars you drive, no matter how often you do that, oh, it never fails to just really get the adrenaline going, heart rate up, pumping, kind of the tingly feelings right in the tip of your fingers and in your toes. Man, I'll tell you. And that exhaust note sounds just fantastic. I love on the sides of the doors, it's got the 60 with the kind of the bull horns coming out of each side of the 6 and the 0. Super cool. But there's a reality. I was showing you guys there at the dealership. $584,000. That is a lot of money. You can buy a regular STO all day long for $375, $400, somewhere in that range. And listen, make no mistake about it, there's no performance differences in this car versus regular STO. All that is aesthetics, and that is a big premium to pay for aesthetics, in my opinion. It really is. And look, obviously I did it because I believe in the long-term attraction and market appreciation of the STO. I think that V10 being gone is a big thing. I think Lamborghini knew that as well. There's going to be guys like me out there that really cherish that V10 and how fantastic it is. No hybrid assist. This is fully natural aspirated. That's fantastic. That seems to be gone as well. No turbos on this car. That's going to be gone as well, going into the Huracan replacement, the new platform. And look, I'm sure the new car is going to be faster. I'm sure it's going to perform fantastic, but it's not going to be this. It will not be that NA V10. It's like I talk about in a lot of these new cars, where they get so good that they really begin to lose feel. And I talk a lot about feel, the feel of driving a car, the characteristics of driving a car, the personality of cars. Because driving is an emotional thing. When you get into these types of cars, you're evoking an emotional response, and you're stirring the nerves when you're driving some of these cars, and that's what they're all about. And a lot of times, it's what many people would consider imperfections in a car that give it some of its characteristics and personality, some of the little things that you got to know, the little quirks about a car. And I love that. I really do. I truly enjoy that. When you begin to perfect a car to the point that you've perfected out all those little quirks, you begin to lose some of those, the personality of that car and some of the things that make an individual as a vehicle. And, you know, and I'm sure that we're going to lose more of that in the next platform of the Huracan replacement. And I'm not knocking, I'm sure I'll end up with one. I'm sure I'm going to love it. But, you know, having this car here, I think this is a car that's going to have its own personality, and it's really going to stand alone and have its own identity for a long time to come. And that's why I've been going on and on about the exhaust note in this car. It's like, oh man, yes. Look at the handling of this car. Oh man. What a machine. What a driver-focused car this is. You know, to go back to where the money's at on this car, and not to make it about money, but if you're spending that kind of money, $584,000, you know, it's only a 630 horsepower car, and I know that sounds crazy to say only 630 horsepower, but that's the reality. This is a 630 horsepower car for almost $600,000. Look, you can get a Ferrari 296 GTS like we have in our garage, 818 horsepower, tremendous handling car as well, for the same money, maybe even slightly less depending on your spec. So, you know, this is a heavy price tag car, no question about that, especially when you look at the premium, the 60th anniversary over a standard STO. I could get the same driving enjoyment out of a regular STO as I'm getting in this one here. But for me, this was more about, yes, I wanted, oh, the downshifts. Oh, it's so good. It's such a special car. I wanted to make the investment, and in this particular car, this is my way of saying I love this car. I love this platform that much. I love the handling and driving of this car that much that I didn't want just a regular STO. I drive these cars every day. I drive a supercar, hypercar every day. I drive them hard. I race in the Ferrari Challenge Series. I spend a lot of time driving at a very high level, and from my experience as a driver and having owned all these cars, I put this on the level of a GT3 RS. This car is so planted, the handling is so good. That is what I put this on par with. I'd love the opportunity to get both of these cars on a track, and I want to do a big track like Circuit of the Americas where you can really stretch the legs of these two cars. Now, yes, there's about 100 horsepower or so difference between the STO and the 3RS. I get that. So obviously this will do a little higher speeds in the straights, but then again, you've got DRS on the 3RS, which would allow me to make that car a little more slippery in the straights, reduce the downforce and the drag. And it'd be interesting to see how that works out. But overall, forget about top speed in the straights. I would love to, and I will drive them both at the same time, and I think that's going to be the next video that we make with these two cars. Get them on a track like Circuit of the Americas, and same driver, same day, same track conditions, put them through their paces, and see how the lap times perform. My guess is they're going to be very similar, and I never thought I'd see the day that I would compare any version, any variant of a Lamborghini to a Porsche GT3 RS. It's truly exceeded my expectations. I mean, really exceeded my expectations. This is one hell of a driver's car with all the aero that it's got, rear wheel driven on the Huracan platform with the V10 is just one of the best recipes for overall driving performance in any car that I have ever seen. This is absolutely bonkers good. I mean, wow. Zero push in these corners, just zero push, and it just puts the power down. It's rear wheel driven, and you know, I'm in Trofeo mode. I don't have ESC off, and I don't want to do it because this particular road I'm pushing it in, there obviously you probably can see around, they're getting ready to develop some neighborhoods or apartment complexes or whatever here. So there's sand on the road and a little bit of gravel. So I don't want to risk there's just nothing. I mean, actually, golly, what? Right there's the gravel. But man, this car is really good. We're gonna get them on track very soon. And I gotta be honest, as I'm driving this car, giving you guys this review, we just bought it. That idea of putting these two cars on track just came to mind. I had no preconceived thoughts or ideas I wouldn't have even thought of a Lamborghini STO in the same vein that I think of the GT3 RS. Comparing those two cars have never crossed my mind before, but that's how much this car, and this is day one, that's how much this car is impressing me. I mean, this thing is really, really something. Way to run a red light, guy. Thank you very much. Other things about this car. The seats, like I said, far more comfortable than I expected them to be. Rear visibility, forget about it. You've got the huge shark fin arrow wing going down the middle of the car. It looks killer from the outside for sure, especially in the blue carbon fiber on this spec. It is, you know, chef's kiss beautiful, but you've got nothing. Looking out the back, if that police officer decided to turn around and get behind me, hopefully I would have seen the flashing lights, because he was on a motorcycle, had he been right in the middle of the lane, looking down that shark fin, I'd have no idea he's behind me, and, you know, I'd probably get in trouble for evading arrest. Meanwhile, I've got no idea he's back there behind me. And I really wish, you know, it's cool, and I got no problem with that. You know, look at the 812 Competizione by Ferrari. There's zero visibility at the back of that car as well. And that's fine, because they incorporated a camera system in the rear view mirror. When I saw the way the STO was done, I assumed, I figured for sure there would be a camera system in the rear view mirror of this car, and there's not. And you know, I think that was a miss by Lamborghini. I mean, the technology's there. That's not an expensive thing to add these days. It's not a big deal. Why they chose to not do it, I really don't get. In fact, it's even something that I might look at some aftermarket options on, because visibility is that almost non-existent out the back. You really can see almost nothing out the back. Visibility out the front and the sides is fantastic. Yeah, no problem at all. The gearbox was great in the Huracan from day one. It's no different than the STO. It's fantastic. Shifts are very, very quick and snappy. You know, I think the gearbox is fantastic in this car. It pairs extremely well with the V10 and this platform. So it's fantastic. The steering and handling is superior. It's very, very good. Like we talked about in the Revuelto. You know, that's what they did with the Revuelto. They took, you know, the big, awesome V12 of the Aventador, the platform that I don't think it's that dissimilar to the Aventador in terms of just the overall platform of the car. Now, I know it's, you know, I think they said there's not one nut or bolt that carried over from the Aventador platform to the Revuelto, and I believe that. But still, it's a V12 platform, so it shares the characteristics. But in the Revuelto, they put the dual clutch gearbox in it. They gave it a lot more of the handling and performance characteristics of the Huracan. That's why I think the Revuelto is absolutely brilliant. Because again, as a compliment to the Huracan, any variant of the Huracan, it is a phenomenal driving car. Truly is. And you look at where you can get some of the older LP610s, some of the original Huracans, they're at a really good price point right now. Mid-low 200s, somewhere in there. I'm not saying that's not a lot of money, but that is a lot of car for that kind of money when you look at other options on the market. Any variant of the Huracan is a phenomenal driver's car. Really, really great car. But I'll tell you, the STO, they turned every dial they had up to max, and I'd have to say they're really sending the STO off with a proper final edition of this car. And with that, let's get back to the gentleman's garage, and I'll give you guys my final thoughts. Yeah, we've got the STO here right next to the GT3 RS. And as I said, today's day one driving this car. As I was driving and telling you guys my impressions of the car, what I felt about driving it, its driving characteristics, how it handled, how it performed, right then and there. That was not any idea that we had previous to today that this STO is the GT3 RS to the Huracan for sure. Any variant of the Huracan for sure. This thing is absolutely amazing. Drives better than I expected it to handle and perform. The mechanical grip is truly impressive. I put it through some corners. I talked about it. There's new construction going on over there. Those corners had a little bit of sand, a little bit of gravel in them from trucks coming and going, and the car, it held all the way through those corners. And I was even kind of starting to push a little bit more than what I was even really comfortable with, given the road surface conditions, and it never danced on me at all. My greatest impression of this car is that I'm putting it on par with driving, handling, mechanical grip, performance with one of the greatest performance cars, road cars that does tremendously well on track, the GT3 RS. We've got my 992 GT3 RS here, and I think I've talked myself into a little track battle with these two cars. So we're gonna be making that happen. And you know, at the end of the day, what's this car really all about, other than me comparing how it handles the performance to a GT3 RS? You know, this is the end of the line for the V10, as we talked about, and I never thought that we would be here this early on. I figured for sure the V12s would go before the V10s, and yet, you know, this is the swan song of this car. Lamborghini definitely pulled out all the stops on this car. The livery, the paint job on this car, the blue carbon fiber, the styling on it, the shark fin, a rear spoiler going on the back, even though, as I discussed, you literally have almost zero visibility out the back. I really wish Lamborghini would have put a camera built into the rearview mirror that would have completely resolved that issue, but they chose not to for whatever reason. But I think this car is going to be one that is going to certainly have its place in history. I think that as we get into the replacement of the Huracan and more turbo and hybrid assist, different variations and different platforms for Lamborghini that'll be, you know, their offerings other than the V12, I think that the Huracan is going to continue to stand taller and taller and taller as time and history goes on. And I think the STO is going to be the ultimate variant of that car. I think the Performante is right there as well. The biggest difference between the STO and the Performante, at least in real world road conditions, is first and foremost, this thing is rear wheel driven. I love the fact that Lamborghini chose to go that route with this car. It completely changed the way this car corners, and I think it was a great decision. I'm grateful for it. It's probably why I'm loving the way this car corners so much more even than I did the Performante, and I loved the Performante. Like I said, the only reason why I let that thing go was the roof line in the Spider drove me nuts. But other than that, that car had tremendous grip, all-wheel drive. Car sounded amazing. I'm hoping that we can work out this weird, whether it be an ECU programming issue or getting the baffles locked open, whatever, because once you get over that 4,600 RPM rev range, this car sounds incredible. Below that, it's boring, at least from a sound perspective, and that's driving me nuts. I'm sure we'll work out a resolution for that. But other than that, there's nothing else negative I can say about this car. It is incredible. It handles, it performs, and I'm putting it right there with the GT3 RS. I think that the track times between these two, same driver, same conditions, are going to be very, very, very similar. And so I can't wait to see how that turns out. Can't wait to bring you guys along with us. It's been so exciting, not only sharing with you guys buying a car that I did not expect to be buying one of the most limited edition cars I've ever bought in my life. I was so excited to have you guys along with us, give you guys my day one, in the moment, honest review of it. That's what I've really enjoyed engaging with you guys, or sharing this with you guys as part of what car collecting and these experiences are all about. And now we've got a head-to-head duo between two cars that I never thought see possible, and I can't wait to bring you guys along with us.